Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope everyone is doing well today. Thank you for tuning in as always, really appreciate it. Shout out to all the subscribers. Gratitude to anybody new, welcome along. This video is entitled Men at Work. I couldn't resist, you know. Tszyu obviously came out to that.
2 bouts in that bloody mess against Sebastian Fundora in Vegas, and when Bakra Murtazaliev sent him to Floridian oblivion.
Very famous Australian song. He put on a good performance against Joey Spencer, who was a little lackluster. We're going to talk about the fight details and get into, you know, some of the offense that was happening in there with Tszyu, at least from my perspective. I'll tell you mostly the good stuff. There's a couple of things that you know, are perhaps a cause for concern about in terms of the same things that he was doing in the background fight. I'll highlight those. And yeah, we'll chop up the fight because, you know, it only lasted 4 rounds. It's actually the fastest that anyone's got Spencer out of there. We're also going to talk about what fights are next for Tszyu, which the obvious one is the Keith Thurman one, but I'll talk about that later. But for somebody that just got knocked out badly and, you know, lost against Fundora with obviously the blemish behind it, but still coming off like those 2 defeats, it just goes to show you the level of spirit and self-belief that this guy has, you know, because it can't be easy taking a beating like that against background. But, you know, he came back and, you know, he really looked strong and looked good, looked patient. I think that was the biggest pull from this, because he even said post fight there was a moment, probably about the 2nd or 3rd round, there was a moment where, you know, he really kind of wanted, probably more than one moment, where he just had the urge to just go guns blazing.
Have a 2-round, 3-round plan and then see how it goes from there, and then just create a narrative and a lot of self-control, because I really wanted to put it on. But yeah, I'm glad that I was able to sort of find my distance, find my range, not rush into early, because he's sharp, he's quick, and he's got a couple good shots. But yeah, it was good to take my time.
In which he probably, this is the irony behind it, if he'd have done that, he probably would have got Spencer out of there anyway, because, you know, Spencer didn't really offer anything. A lot of people were talking about him, hyping him up a little bit. I wasn't one of them, because I just felt like Jesus Ramas had already taken his soul and Tszyu basically deleted his soul. I mean, he looked like a defeated fighter, really. After the first bell, Joey Spencer, he didn't look confident, didn't look strong to me, you know. He's never really been the strong type, but he just looked in his face, and I spoke about that pre-fight. I don't know whether the boxing game's just been too much for him, whether that loss, whether just the road back to wherever, I don't know. But, you know, nonetheless, it was good matchmaking, because it does really, ultimately, all you need is to get that buzz back, get the win back, build the confidence, and move on, basically, you know. But Spencer, you know, obviously they came out very cagey first couple of rounds, first round especially.
Joey Spencer, Ben Damon in commentary alongside Showtime Sean Porter.
Spencer wasn't doing a great deal, backing up a little bit. You know, there wasn't a lot of leather being traded, but, you know, I thought Tszyu looked fairly confident considering what had just happened. Second round was more of the same. You know, Tszyu pressuring him on the front foot.
Tszyu is going to do just that. He's going to pot shot, pick his moments, and he's going to build round after round. Yeah.
But being very patient. That's that key word, patience, good defense. When he's thinking about the defense and he's really applying it from a, all right, what have you got, champ? You know, stepping back.
On with his feet.
The counter shot there. Uppercut scored. Spencer reaches out to the body, but he can't just stay there in front of Tszyu.
Just the subtle little moves. It's very good, and I stand by that, I do. It's when he's getting into his offense, he's got to learn to tie the defense in a little bit, right? Like a little bit of head movement, like what I was talking about. A cause for concern, if you will, is just walking in a straight line, walking down like a fighter for more than 1 or 2, 3 seconds with your head on the line like that.
To the body he goes after Spencer threw 2 shots to the body. Screwed one through the guard there, did Spencer. Little uppercut as Tszyu tries to find him.
Either not throwing punches or just kind of, you know, aimlessly walking in. You can do it against the Joey Spencers. He doesn't really have the power or, you know, the strength to really cause any issues. And that's a big part of this. Obviously, Tszyu talked about getting his distance and his range. A big part of that was the fact that Joey Spencer really wasn't offering anything to deter him from coming in, right? There wasn't really any stiff jabs or any meaningful stab jabs. There were jabs here and there, but they didn't have, like, you know, a lot of juice on them or a lot of mean intention, you know? And so obviously if someone's going to walk you down and there's nothing to deter you from coming into his zone, he's just going to walk into it, you know? It's like having a house without a lock on it. He's just going to walk straight in. And, you know, the third round actually was quite entertaining because there was a lot of back and forth. They were in the pocket a little bit, and Tszyu was doing some quite cute stuff.
And he goes to the body, Tszyu, and over the top as well. Spencer tried to throw his own. Good shot, Tszyu. Uppercut.
What I love to see, and I actually spoke about this pre-fight. I didn't think he was going to bring it in. I'm not sure if he's done this before, maybe, but I was saying, you know, use your jab a bit more educated, you know, meaning go upstairs with it, go downstairs with it, probe with it a little bit. You know, he's done the probing before. I'm not saying he's not thrown body jabs, but I thought he threw the most amount of body jabs I think I've seen him before.
It was picture perfect in terms of how I thought it was going to go.
Do that before. And there was a moment where he jabbed upstairs, kind of a probing jab, which is like me doing that, right? You can't see. And then bang!
And he goes to the body.
That's a good use of it. Or like you're just using it, you might use it to lean your jab onto your opponent's glove, right? Caleb Plant does that. To actually, if you lean it on your glove, then they can't really throw the punch. Very clever, a probing jab. And he was doing it a little bit, but it's used to blind, you know, basically your opponent. Then he jabbed downstairs. Then he came round side with a right hook. It landed not flush, but it was a nice bit of trickery, you know, to break through that defense. Then he was throwing decoy shots, right, which is you know, basically some of the uppercuts that he was throwing up close. You know, one of them was a little bit less, with less velocity, and then the other one comes in, so you're creating a distraction.
To have things his own way, and they surge behind him.
Right, so you throw the uppercut, hits the gloves, there's a little bit of distraction, bang, you come in with a left hook or a body shot. A lot of cute offense, you know. Yeah, I thought the third round was good. I don't remember Joey Spencer really landing anything too clean. He might have landed a couple of body shots here and there. And as I said pre-fight, he likes to shoot sneaky little uppercuts, which he tried one in like the third round maybe. It didn't really land properly. He turned southpaw. He didn't really have that much to offer. But, you know, at the same time, that's what a good defense and good distance and range control and being out when Tszyu's using his defense, that can do that. And it can make you, you know, either frustrated or not punch, and then when he walks you down, that's the Tszyu pre-Fondora, at least pre-cut, which was I was kind of very impressed with, and the patience and the concentration, you know, they were definitely all there. But the big thing is against Background and against an elite fighter that can punch or is not scared of you, and that's the thing. Spencer was quite scared of. You could see in his face, it was a bit of anxiety. When there's someone that's going to not, then they respect you, but like Background, he wasn't worried about what was coming back. And I think the corner asked him, Background's corner asked him in the first or second round, he's like, no, I can take his punches. That's worrying. You don't want to just walk somebody down and try to, you know, not have any cuteness about you when you're coming in, because they're going to trade with you. You know, they're going to be not so enamored by your physicality either, because they can take your shots or whatever the case may be. You can get away with that against. So I'd like to see him get a bit more head movement, you know, when he's coming in, instead of just walking straight down. And maybe again keep that creativity with the jab, but you got to maintain it. You know, it's all right doing it once or twice or here and there, but it has to be part of your offense against the elite fighters. And now. Well, yeah, let's talk about, I was going to talk about the Thurman fight. Let's talk about the fourth round. Obviously, that was, the writing was really on the wall.
He turns that uppercut around, the right hand as well. The crowd starts to surge behind.
Actually, was it? Yeah, I guess Spencer didn't really offer much. I thought the stoppage was a bit premature from his corner, but that just kind of, again, the whole team and the whole energy didn't seem like they really had that much belief in winning. So, you know, they pulled him out and Tszyu started teeing off on him.
But it's all Tszyu pouring in the pressure. The towel comes in.
And, you know, that was all she wrote. But, you know, once you can't stop the dam from, you know, spilling water, essentially, then it's just going to break through and there's nothing you can do. You didn't have the power to keep him off. He didn't have the defensive moves to keep him off or slide. He didn't try to hold. He just stood there like he's a sitting duck. You're a sitting duck. And it was a bizarre game plan, if you want to call it that, from Spencer. But at the same time, it's hard to have a good game plan when you can't get your shots off and you're not that confident. And, you know, yeah, I don't know. Is it a good win? I suppose so. Well, I'm not sure it will age particularly well, because I think at this point Spencer will probably turn into a gatekeeper, a high-level gatekeeper. No disrespect to him, but you know, the media was certainly blowing his name up pre-fight, and I just was like, I don't know, man. I thought the fight would go longer, so I was quite off with that. But I thought Tszyu might have taken his time a bit longer, and I thought Spencer might have a little bit of success or a bit more success a bit earlier, and then wiggle his way around and not, you know, stand there. And basically, even in the third round, he elected to, you know, stand there in the pocket, and I was like, oh, that's not particularly smart, you know. But you know, he had, well, I was going to say he had some success. He really didn't. Might have landed one or two shots here or there, but essentially that's not going to work. Trying to trade with a bigger man or fight on the inside, you know. His best option was to really move and get a bit more flashy with that jab, but then he couldn't land them. So yeah, he was never going to win that fight, Joey Spencer, I don't think. But anyway, good-ish win, I suppose. You know, that's the main thing, is getting the win and moving on and building that, you know, that confidence again, which I don't think he really needs a lot to rebuild his confidence. He's a very confident guy, very, you know, a lot of spirit, man. But Keith Thurman called him out.
I don't know about you, boy, but I'm still hungry. Send the contract.
Keith Thurman. I quite like Keith Thurman. I don't know why. Maybe it's because he's a musician, like, you know, fellow musician. But I can't help but think it's quite cringy when he talks. You know, I just think, oh my God, Keith, come on. But it's a good fight. You know, that you could see what they were doing. You know, actually, I left a comment when the Brock Jarvis fight got made. I was like, oh, they're trying to probably line up. They're good promoters, actually. Let me just talk about that before the Thurman fight. That team are good promoters, because I truly think that, you know, Tszyu is more of a boss with his career than a lot of other fighters that are under contract. Do you know? I could be wrong, but it's just the gauge that I feel with his relationship with Greg. I forget that guy's name. Glen Jennings. Really nice chap, actually. His manager. Or then you got George Rose. I'm not sure which one's the manager or which one's the promoter or whatever, but the older gentleman, no, I don't mean it like that, it's just he's older than me. He's a nice dude. I've watched him on interviews in America. He's popped up on a few channels here. Really lovely guy. And I get the impression that they really care about him. And I get the impression that they listen to him. And yes, they, you know, will make decisions and stuff on his behalf, or maybe together. But like, I think they have his best interest. Obviously, the money's coming in. He's still got a good fan base. So, but they've stood by him, and you know, I generally think that they make a really good team collectively. So, respect to them for that, because there's so much, you know, I don't want to use the word evil, but it's not far off it in boxing. Jeez. So it's nice to see some good spirits doing some good deeds and helping a good man. Do you know what I mean? But Keith Thurman, that fight is, I actually, when that fight got made initially, I made a video about that. I think I was the only one that actually said I liked the fight. I was like, I actually don't mind it, because at the time there were so many fighters that were tied up, right? Bud was tied up, or the negotiations kind of were on, but they fell through. Spence was injured. Jamel Charlo was, you know, nowhere to be seen, hiding out somewhere. I listed all of the fighters in the 154 division. I was like, if you can name a fighter outside of the ones that I've named that are not eligible, and you can come up with a better name than Keith Thurman, please let me know in the comments, because I can't find one. Not saying, but I know the Ortiz fight tried to happen. I can't remember if that was before or after, but there was literally no one in the top 10 that made any sense outside of Keith Thurman. I was like, I actually like the fight. Keith Thurman is a good fighter, bro. He's he's way better than a good fighter. He's obviously not what he used to be, but he's IQ. He is one of the smartest fighters. Elite IQ.
Thurman's IQ is elite. Tim's IQ, as we saw today, is elite. It would be a beautiful matchup.
Watching an interview from that gentleman, I forgot his name. I like his interviews. Very even-keeled guy, Australian guy. Might have been maybe he's a pro fighter, ex-fighter. I'll put his name up on the screen. Maybe I should know him. I watch his interviews. He's really good. I like what he says. He compared Tszyu's IQ to Thurman's. I strongly disagree with that. I think Tim Tszyu's IQ against background is what failed him, really. Obviously being impatient and all that stuff, that's IQ. Not having a game plan, overestimate, this is all IQ, you know. So Thurman has proved his IQ at the highest level, and he is a tremendous fighter. Obviously it's hard to know exactly what he's got left. I saw the highlights of the Jarvis fight, good knockout, but what does that really tell you? You know, the levels and disparity in those two, and the size as well, you know. It was just not really the best fight for me to gauge where Thurman is. But him against Tim Tszyu is a tremendous fight. I know they were also talking about maybe sneaking in the Fondora one before. I actually think that's a better option. I know Fondora and Xander Zayas have just had a WBC ordering or something like that. I think they've tried to make that fight, so we'll see. But I like the Fondora rematch. And again, Tszyu's manager wasn't really too keen on it.
A Fondora? Yeah. Oh, look, that would be a PBC and a no limits. That's an expensive exercise. Yeah. I think PBC traditionally like to run their champs in the US on Amazon Prime, and that's their home base. So
it sounded like he was chomping up the numbers, right? And it didn't sound like it really made sense to him, because I think coming to America and dealing with all the joint promotion or whatever it is like that, he said it just sounded like a lot of money. So we'll see. Maybe they can get Fondora to Australia. But let me know what you guys think about what fights you'd like to see. I think the obvious two are the ones I've just mentioned. Now, there's so many killers in the 154 division. I think those two that I just mentioned are probably more winnable, especially the Fondora one, and will just maintain that steady rise back to a world title. I guess the Fondora fight would be for a world title. He's a world champion, isn't he? I don't know. Yeah, you got to be careful at 154, because this is where I say his managers have done a great job. They have, but at some point they need to rein him in from stop trying to fight everybody straight away. Like wanting to fight the best on throwback is an amazing thing, and if everybody did that, the sport would be unbelievable. But at some point you got to navigate a little bit more wisely, right? And keep that, keep the win section going. I'm not saying fight in obese. I'm just saying don't just go for the hardest test every time. If you were like, I compare it to, like, if you're, let's just say, the Champions League, right? Let's just say you're Barcelona, and you can pick who you want to fight in, or you can pick who you want to play, right? Barcelona are probably not going to pick Real Madrid, even though they probably massively believe in themselves, and all the players will know, yeah, we can beat these easily. The team behind there will be like, oh yeah, well, what about Porto? We can fight them. Or maybe Porto's are not a good someone, like I'm not that up to date with the Champions League now, but a team that's good, that you can definitely beat, that will keep the money coming in. It's the business at the end of the day. That's how I see it. I think those two are good. What I'm saying is, I wouldn't go for the Virgil Ortizes just yet. That's, with that much power, what Backram did to him, it's a dangerous fight. I'm trying to think of the other names left. I don't really count Errol Spence anymore. I think he might be done. It's like, it's tough to see, because I've loved watching him fight, but it's tough to see in the sense that what the damage has happened to him with the car accident and stuff like that. And then you've got Jamel Charlo still hiding. Who else was there? Xander Zayas. That'd actually be a pretty good fight. Very high risk for both fighters, in the sense that, maybe not very high risk. It's risky. It's a winnable fight for both. He's got a lot of skills, very untested at the highest level though. So you'd probably favour Tszyu slightly, but I don't know. Xander's got a lot of skills, man. But that's a good fight. I'm sure I'm missing Erickson Lubin. I know they talked about that before. That's actually a pretty good fight as well. Jesus Ramos. You know, there's some killers at 154. Poof. Everywhere you turn, it's a top fighter. Great division. I'm sure I'm missing one or two. Medrimov, not a good matchup for Tszyu, I don't think, with his in and out style. You know, I think he, not that saying he couldn't beat him. I think it's just that's one that you might just think, we'll fight someone else. Not saying they don't think they could beat him. It's just a weird stylistic matchup. You know, that Eastern European in and out, aggressive Eastern European style. But anyway, I've been rambling quite a bit. What is it? 18 minutes. Jeez. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks to anyone tuned in, especially if you stayed up to now. Thanks for anyone that commented on my last videos and that's been asking me. I am probably going to make a few other videos. I'll be back with something, you know, relevant if there's another fight from Tszyu or Opetaya. And you know, anyone that's followed the channel, I'm trying to pick a new lane and just do more creative, artistic, scientific videos. But you know, I felt like I wanted to. I didn't want to let anyone down with this fight breakdown, you know. I wanted to make a video in case people wanted to watch it. So I appreciate you. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Always, you know, always a pleasure. Peace. I'm out.
Boxing.
On it.